The day that I first started giving me lungs a go, Dad says to Mum at the hospital, "We've got a backup plan now, in case Billy turns out to be a dud and can't tell a Hereford from a Murray Grey." He was joking, probably. Apparently then went down to the bottom pub for a few 4Xs to wet young Gary's head, he reckoned. Anyway, he ends up snogging his ex-girlfriend in the beer garden. Nana ran the place. The old man couldn't bang in a fence post without being told which end of the mallet to hold. So he'd sulk off down the dam with his easel and do a watercolour painting of the wool shed, windmill, one of the 47 broken down Holdens. Sometimes he'd paint yabbies wearing Queensland State of Origin jerseys. Nana'd tell him they were good, so he kept out of her hair, but they were genuinely rubbish. Billy and I got on alright when we were little, but as we got older we started to blue. Usually over whether Wally Lewis or Jonathan Thurston was the better league player. It's JT every day, by the way. As we were exchanging blows, he'd always remind me that he'd take over the farm from Dad when he took over from Nan, and that I was just a backup, on standby, for use only in an emergency. The auxiliary generator, the added bonus, the optional extra, the unused interchange player, surplus to needs, the supernumerary, the supererogatory, pleonastic excess. He might not have been able to fight his way out of a paper bag, but he knew his way around a thesaurus. 8,938. Wasn't a number that gave me any satisfaction, but I wasn't ashamed neither. Like, for sure, I'd have preferred not to have to shoot cane toads, but by the same token, I'd have preferred to live in a country where some idiot thought bringing them here was a good idea. Bastards of things. When Mum died, I had to walk down the old tip road behind the Holden ute with the coffin in the back, because there weren't enough seats in the ute. Dad got out and I tried to hold his hand, but he got swooped by a magpie and started swearing. Dad and Mum had split up well before that. She'd been seeing Nathan for a while. His family owned the abattoir, so it was a big deal. Gus from the Mutton Gully Chronicle just wouldn't leave him alone. He was buzzing with his drone out at the weir when their jet ski hit a snag and flipped. The first time I saw Peg was on TikTok. She was knocking back tequila shots at the Gundawindi B&S and threw up in some cowboy's hat, then had another shot. Right then, I knew I had to meet her. I finally did meet her at the Stanthorpe camp draft. Watching her cut and draft a heifer in a figure eight is one of the sexiest things I've ever seen. We finally met in the bungee tent that night and I let her throw up in the hat. We were engaged by the time the Lions Club had fired up the barbie the next morning. Meeting the family was always going to be dicey. No one in our family had ever dated anyone from New South Wales. I didn't want to make a bad situation worse, so I said to Peg, I reckon we should go in my car, but she insisted on driving, said she had nothing to be ashamed of. Turning up in a Ford to meet my family was bad enough, but when they found out that her mum owned a Ford dealership in Grafton, that tipped things over the edge. We got Nana's cattle corgis when she died. She was the only farmer in the Darwin Downs who herded cattle with corgis, for a very good reason. They were rubbish at it. Early doors, Billy and Kylie went on a holiday to Bali with us. Peg and Kyles got on all right at first, but then one night they both turned up to the pool bar wearing exactly the same sarong. Kylie pulled rank and told Peg she should go back to the villa and change into a different sarong. Peg wouldn't have a bar of it. She says to Kyles that she reckoned the heat had got the better of her, reckoned she had barley brain. Did not go down well at all. It was Peg's idea to sunbake in the nude. I should have said no. I'm a blood nut, for goodness sake. We'd had a few mojitos, so inevitably we nodded off. By the time I woke up, the damage was done. The rest of my body settled down after a few days, but my old fella was a mess for weeks. It looked like a prawn that had been left in the Weber for too long. Once we did that double-page spread in the Weekly Times, we both knew we needed to move away from my family. I must admit, living in New South Wales took some adjusting. For a start, the daylight savings just messes with your head. But we're happy here, although I'm not looking forward to the State of Origin series. Might have to slip over the border for a bit in me Holden.